Alright everyone, this is it! The final volume, the epic conclusion of Paper Girls. Will it be a satisfying resolution to the story? Will it make sense? Will we, the reader, be able to understand the timeline? Will the Paper Girls have happy endings? We shall see. Now, last volume, the girls were in the year 2171, and Clone Aaron dispersed the 4 girls to 4 different time periods. So now all the girls are separated in time, and we will see their journey to potentially meet back up together. So let's dive into it now. The conclusion of Paper Girls. Paper Girls, Volume 6. Written by Brian K. Vaughan, art by Cliff Chiang, colors by Matt Wilson, letters by Jared K. Fletcher. Issue 26. Erin is having a dream. It is Halloween. She is eating a hot apple pie. You know, the kind you would get at McDonald's. She is wearing a wedding dress. Missy, Erin's sister, is pointing a gun at Erin and tells her, in the future they're going to be baked, and they suck. Missy then gets zapped by Michael Jackson? But Michael Jackson is actually Tiffany? Tiffany, as MJ tells Erin through her dream, now listen up, I came all the way to tell you something important. If you want to get back home, you have to moonwalk. Understand? Erin does not understand, and she realizes she is in a dream. Tiffany in the dream reiterates to Erin though, no, this is a message, and if you forget, we're all gonna burn in hell. And then Tiffany's face melts off and the dream ends. Erin, she wakes up. She is in the year 2017. It is Halloween. When she wakes up, there are various people in Halloween costumes around her. There's a Ninjago costume, a Walter White, a little Trump, and someone who was the clown from It. They were all concerned for Erin because she was passed out in the middle of the street. They ask her where her friends are. Erin says she doesn't know. The little boy in the Trump costume points at the sky and says that it's all wrong. The sky looks like it did in Volume 1 when it was all messed up and there was more stars and everything. Erin then remembers her dream and Tiffany's instructions for her to moonwalk. We jump over to the old-timers flying ship. Grandfather, Cardinal, and the other soldiers of Watch are there. Grandfather and his troops were just in the year 2016, and the events of Volume 2 happened to them. Clone Aaron, in the year 2171, last volume, sent the 4 Paper Girls to different points in time. And by doing this, she really scattered the timeline. And Grandfather and his whole ship got pulled out of the year 2016, and they have now been waylaid. And we see the pyramid Editrixes flying around, and the sky now just looks like a bright fire. Grandfather, talking to Cardinal in their ship, asks, where the hell are they now? And what bloody year are they in? Cardinal answers, we're not in a specific year, we're interstitial, we're inside the 4th dimension. Grandfather asks, how the devil do we get out? Cardinal answers, according to the last transmission we were able to receive from back home, our main folding seems to have been closed. Cardinal and Grandfather then see images of what Clone Aaron did last volume. How she dispersed the 4 Paper Girls into various parts of the timeline. Grandfather asks, Cardinal, what if this is them? The 4 girls we lost in 88? What if we all just passed each other? Cardinal studies the girls' clothes and she says, some of their garb does match the 88 era, but what about this one? She's dressed more like one of our shitty descendants. Cardinal is looking at Clone Aaron and recognizes her as a teenager from the future. Grandfather comments, and if an enemy fighter found these poor kids before us, well, she weaponized them by scattering these girls to different corners of the hypercube. She didn't just bend a single year inside itself, Before Grandfather can finish his sentence, a time portal opens right there in Grandfather's ship. Some people look like they are walking out and entering. Cardinal yells, "Breach!" Grandfather, he runs over to a nearby drawer and he grabs his pistol and is ready for whoever has came through. We now jump away from the fourth dimension and go over to 1958, to KJ. KJ is at the Cleveland Preserver newspaper, and she is talking to some newspaper delivery boys. KJ, she looks at the cover of a newspaper and learns that she is in the year 1958. KJ befriends some of the other newspaper boys and they let KJ inside the newspaper building, which looks to be where the printing press is. KJ, she looks around. She wants to find some information on where Charlotte Spacechevsky may live. Charlotte Spacechevsky's dad was doing the Frankie Tamada comic strip back then, which Charlotte would eventually take over. Charlotte was a woman that KJ met in the year 2000 who knew all sorts of time travel stuff. And Charlotte mentioned that in 1958 she met the time traveler known as Jude. So KJ is thinking if she can find Charlotte, she can maybe find Jude, and if she can find Jude, Jude can bring her to his time machine. While KJ is looking around, one of the newspaper boys confronts her. He likes KJ's fancy futuristic boots, and he threatens to beat her up if she doesn't hand them over to him. KJ is not scared though. She killed a caveman back in Volume 3, remember? KJ grabs the boy and twists his arm and slams him against a bookshelf. She then whispers to the boy, "You want a new pair of shoes? Then get back on your bike and sling papers. But if I ever hear you try to rob another kid, I'm gonna find you and kick your teeth out of your face, understood?" KJ then lets the boy go, and she heads out. Alright, now we jump over to Mac. Mac got sent to 38 minutes before the end of the world. A giant monster was going to eat Mac, but the creature gets zapped away by a much older looking Quanta Bronstein, who is also there near the end of the world. Mac and Quanta appear to be in a desert-looking area. Quanta says hello to Mac and says, "I know you." Mac recognizes Quanta as well, and she says, "Hey, you're the lady who invented time travel, right?" Quanta replies, "I haven't been called that in a while, but I thought you and your friends all made it home. When I finally got back to the late 21st century, the first thing I did was dig up what happened to each of you." Mac replies, "So, you know my fairy tale ending, huh?" "Yeah, first I heard it was gonna be leukemia, but according to a dickhole's second opinion, it's something called 4DC. Quanta reveals that she actually suffers from the same disease as well. Quanta explains, "They didn't realize when I was diagnosed either, but I'm patient 0 of the same disease you regrettably contracted. That's why I came here, to die with the rest of our planet. In 38 minutes, a gamma ray burst from a nearby galaxy is going to permanently extinguish all life on Earth, just shy of her 5 billionth birthday." Quanta says she didn't want Wari and Japo to have to deal with her remains, so when her health started getting bad, she took the beta model of her time travel ship for one last trip. She thought it would be cool to hang on until the finish line of the world, see how it all ends. Quanta and Mac, they talk some more. We jump over to Tiffany. Tiffany is in a snowy area, way in the future. The exact time is unknown, but we're talking thousands of years in the future. A voice calls out to Tiffany, and Tiffany sees Aaron. Tiffany assumes it is Clone Aaron and tackles her and tells her this is all your fault. Clone Aaron replies, "Hey, that wasn't me. It was one of my predecessors." Aaron explains that she is actually another clone of Aaron from much further in the future. She says that the clone Aaron that Tiffany met and is referring to was the first genetic duplicate of Aaron. And that first clone generation of Aaron was a lot angrier than this generation that Aaron is. Clone Aaron explains, still, if it wasn't for those pioneers, we never would have ended the war. The teenagers' war with the old-timers is finally over. Clone Aaron invites Tiffany into a nearby building and says, "Welcome to a harmonious utopia of complete global peace. Can I get you some hot chocolate?" Tiffany is confused. Why is she here? Clone Aaron explains that Tiffany was transported thousands of years in her future so that she could help them. Tiffany asks, "Help you do what?" Clone Aaron answers, "End the war, of course." Tiffany continues being confused. She thought Aaron said the war was already over. Clone Aaron explains, Tiffany, we're the good guys because our side never stopped believing that a fairer, more just world was possible for everyone. Unlike the old-timers, we still have hope. We still have dreams. Aaron brings Tiffany into another room, where we see an older 42-year-old clone version of KJ. And we also see, yet again, another clone version of Aaron, except this one is 19 years old and she has a stupid haircut. We also see adult Tiffany. That's right, the same one that we saw die in the year 2171. Turns out she lived. More on that, though, next issue. Alright, before I dive into the next issue, let's do a little timeline breakdown and try and figure out what is going on. On Reddit, I found this one user called ZNinja0 who put together this whole super detailed timeline breaking down everything in Paper Girls. Here it is. I will link to it in the description, although somehow I was even more confused after looking at this thing. But try staring at this once this video is over and see if you can make sense of it all. But forgetting this, let's simplify it a little bit. To set us all up for the rest of the volume, let me recap the series events for Paper Girls and for Grandfather that we have seen so far. So first, let's follow the Paper Girls' journey. Volume 1 began in 1988. This was the first time the Paper Girls perceived to have encountered Grandfather and the old-timers / Watch. Then, in Volume 2, the Paper Girls got sent to the year 2016. And there they met adult Aaron and clone Aaron. And then the girls got sent back to the year 11,706 BCE in Volume 3. There, the Paper Girls met Worry and Joppo and Quanta Bronstein. Then they got sent to the year 2000 in Volume 4. The Paper Girls there met adult Tiffany, and they found a mech robot of the teenagers, and then got jumped to the year 2171 in Volume 5. And there, the Paper Girls met an older version of Worry, and they ran into Clone Aaron again. And Clone Aaron sent the girls into 4 different time periods. Aaron got sent to the year 2017. Tiffany got sent thousands of years into the future. Mac got sent to the year 5 billion or so, just 40 minutes or so before the end of the world. And KJ got sent to 1958. So, that was the timeline of events for the Paper Girls, but Joppo, he perceived things in a different order. Grandfather or Joppo or the old-timers or Watch, whatever you want to call them. In the year 11,706 BCE, Joppo was just a little boy. But then we learned that him and Worry were brought by Quanta Bronstein to the future, to somewhere between the years 2055 and 2171. Joppo is currently unaware that he was from these caveman times. Within the year 2055 and 2171, at some point, Joppo and Worry arrived with Quanta Bronstein, who raised them as her kids. and Joppo grew up eventually to join the group known as Watch. And eventually he got elected to be the leader of Watch, and took on the ceremonial title of Grandfather. Then, in the year 2000, that was when the war between the teenagers and the old-timers really escalated. And that was the first time that Grandfather perceived to have sort of encountered the Paper Girls. But the Paper Girls then jumped away, and Grandfather waited. In the year 2171, Grandfather and Watch waited, and they thought the Paper Girls arrived in that time. And then they thought the Paper Girls jumped to 1988. So Grandfather and the old-timers went to 1988. And in 1988, Grandfather had his interactions with the Paper Girls that we saw go down in Volume 1. However, you can see because of all the time jumping, the series of events were different for the Paper Girls than they were for Grandfather. Then, Grandfather and his group followed the Paper Girls to the year 2016, which we saw go down in Volume 2. And then from the year 2016, Grandfather and his people were taken out of that time and sent to the fourth dimension, and that is where they are now. On top of all this, we also have the teenagers who also had their own journey throughout time. But anyway, I hope this helps put all the time travel into perspective. Let's continue on now with issue 27. In 1958, KJ is hiding out of Charlotte's home, waiting. Eventually, a young Charlotte Spacechevsky comes out of her home's basement. She was hiding the teenager known as Jude down there. She tells Jude the coast is clear. Charlotte wants to keep Jude's existence hidden from her dad. If you remember back in Volume 4, Charlotte mentioned she met Jude when she was younger, and they developed a friendship, and he taught her about time travel. While we see now that Charlotte was also teaching Jude about how to speak her version of English. Jude tells Charlotte, "You're a lifesaver, Charlotte. Literary." Charlotte explains it's literally. The two, they talk a little bit more, and then they say their goodbyes, and they make plans to meet again tomorrow night. Jude, he is only here in 1958 until his time travel ship can get repaired. Jude and Charlotte are not in a romantic relationship. We learned in Volume 1 that Jude is actually gay, and he is in a romantic relationship with Heck. So Charlotte goes back inside for the night, and KJ confronts Jude. KJ, she puts her futuristic boots on her hands, and she is pointing them as a weapon at Jude. The two of them talk, and KJ explains that she is friends with Heck and Noldo, and she asks for Jude's help to get back to the year 1988. The two of them, they walk off together. We leave KJ now and jump to the end of the world, to Mac and Quanta Bronstein. Another beast monster attacks them, but Mac shoots it with Quanta's weapon. All of these creatures are the fittest monsters that survived billions of years of evolution. In all of the commotion of that beast attacking them, Mac accidentally broke her Walkman. Mac pulls it out and shows Quanta. Quanta looks at the cassette inside, and it is Prince's Sign o' the Times, which came out in 1987. Mac asks Quanta, "Look, why don't we just use the time travel machine and travel back to when you were younger and tell yourself to never invent any of this time travel crap? And then both of us won't have this weird cancer thing that we're dying of." Quanta looks at Mac's cassette and explains, "I wish that were possible, but unfortunately the world is like one of these. Time, it's not unlike your cassette. It's comprised of one long spool, stretching from beginning to end, and each segment can only be recorded over so many times before it begins to degrade. I've tried actually, but it turns out that death is not unlike breaking the little tab off of one of these things. Maybe it's God's way of making sure that his designs can only be changed so much. Mac comments, what kind of asshole creator would let a kid die? Quanta, trying to make Mac look on the bright side, says, you have every right to be pissed, Mac. Nothing about life is fair, but at least yours isn't over yet. I know this will sound strange coming from someone in my line of work, but the amount of time we're each given is irrelevant. It's what we choose to do with every second that counts. Anyway, at least your tape survived? Is it a good one? Mac replies, looking at it, nah, it's the frickin' best. We now jump over to Tiffany. Tiffany is introduced to older 19-year-old clone Aaron, 42-year-old clone KJ, as well as Tiffany from the year 2000. Young Tiffany asks old Tiffany, how is it possible she's still alive? Old Tiffany explains, it only looked as if I died back in 2171. 60 years ago, people from this glorious paradise swooped in a split second before that blast to transport me to their time. They freejacked me. Freejack is a reference to the 1992 film starring Emilio Estevez, where he gets snatched from the past just prior to the moment of his death and sent to the distant future. Also wanted to note, Anthony Hopkins and Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones also star in the movie. Clone KJ tells Tiffany, Tiffany, our foremothers rescued your older self for the same reason they gave birth to us, because you and each of your friends are vitally important to the future. They then all explain that back in the day, they would rely on the comic strip Frankie Tamada to send coded messages to other time travelers. But eventually, the old-timers figured out that trick. So, they came up with a new, more creative way to talk to the others in the past, and to give them messages in a way the old-timers could never intercept. They built off the brain-machine interface like the one in that old Apple device that Tiffany and the girls saw earlier, and they invented a way to do a narrowcast transmission directly into the unconscious minds in the past. In other words, dreams. They invented a dream machine, so they would send messages to the past through dreams. Young Clone Aaron explains that, we've discovered that our creation works most clearly with one's contemporaries. 19-year-old Clone Aaron adds, all of us have tried talking to your pals, but not even senior citizen you can make a strong enough connection. Clone KJ continues, which is where 12-year-old you comes in. Young Clone Aaron says, you're the one person who can break through to your crew of friends. We need you to reach out to as many as you can and help guide them into position for a plan that will ultimately create peace on Earth. So they want Tiffany to send messages to her friends through their dreams. Tiffany thinks this is crazy. She asks, what makes you think this will work? Old Tiffany answers, that's the beautiful thing. It already has. Remember in the opening issue of this volume, we saw Aaron having a dream. And in that dream, Tiffany told Aaron, if you want to get back home, you have to moonwalk, understand? That was actually Tiffany using the dream machine to give Aaron that message. We jump over to the year 2017. We see Aaron is walking around on Halloween night. She remembers the message from the dream telling her to moonwalk. Aaron interprets this as meaning she must retrace her steps and go back to where it all started. Aaron, she goes back to the house where her and the Paper Girls found the time machine in the first place. As Aaron walks around, she finds her way to that basement, and in that basement, a time fold opens. Aaron, she walks through it, and it transports her away, all the way to the fourth dimension, to Grandfather's ship. Grandfather, with a gun in his hand, tells Aaron, Awesome to finally make your acquaintance. Issue 28. This issue has a little bit of a gimmick with the way the story was told. Each page was split into 4 panels, and each panel would follow one of the paper girls in their particular timeline, and you would read each of the 4 stories at the same time. Tiffany was at the top panel, then Mac, and then KJ, and then Aaron at the bottom panel. Telling the story this way was a very interesting experiment, although sometimes I found it a little hard to keep track of what was going on because the story was just jumping around so much. So a character would say dialogue, and the reply to that dialogue wouldn't be read until next page. So when I go through this issue, I am going to explain the story one at a time instead. So first, we will start with Tiffany. Tiffany, she gets strapped to that dream machine. She asks the others, so wherever Aaron, Mac, and KJ ended up, old Sparky here is really going to let me talk to them when they're asleep? Old Tiffany says, yes, and the message you need to deliver is this: return to the beginning. Clone Aaron tells Tiffany to start with Aaron first. Just concentrate on her memory and keep repeating the dispatch in your mind. As Tiffany starts focusing on this, she causes a large tear in the fabric of time and space. It causes a shaking and an earthquake-like reaction in all 4 of the time periods where the various paper girls are. And that tear in time goes all the way back to the prehistoric era in 11,706 BCE. Tiffany can actually see that time period in front of her. Tiffany asks, "What the hell was that?" The other girls assure her this is normal. She created a 4D fault line, a byproduct of using this dream machine. Whatever she is doing is working. Tiffany realizes that she just blew chunks of the future into that time hole. So when Wari and the cavemen were seeing all of that future junk in that earlier volume, it must have been from this. As Tiffany talks to the others, she finds out the plan for peace between the old-timers and the teenagers is for her and the other paper girls' memories to be erased of their whole time travel journey, and all of them to be returned back home safely to 1988. Tiffany, she is happy to go back home, but she is angry to learn about this. If her and the other girls' memories of their time together are gone, then they won't be friends anymore. Old Tiffany tells her younger self, "Don't worry. Whatever the old-timers are going to do to you, to us, it won't hurt a bit." Young Tiffany asks, "What do you mean, going to do? I thought all of this was about defeating the old-timers." Clone Aaron explains, "Actually, we told you we were going to end the war, not win it." Tiffany says, "So, my friends and I are getting our brains washed by the bad guys as part of your surrender?" Clone Aaron and Clone KJ say, "This isn't a surrender, it's a truce. One that will last forever." Young Tiffany is still fighting this. She says, "My friends and I will forget everything that happened, everything that's made us friends." Old Tiffany reassures young Tiffany it's a small price to pay for a lifetime of happiness she'll eventually find in this paradise. Young Tiffany, she continues arguing, but old Tiffany says, "Look, it has to happen this way because it did happen this way." A portal opens in front of Tiffany. 19-year-old Clone Aaron asks, "Is it finally happening?" Old Tiffany replies, "Yep, the last domino's been tipped." Tiffany, she sees KJ and Jude on the other side of the portal and tells them, "No, it's a trap." Then the comic zooms out into space, and we see this page of the 4 distinct timelines. The blue planet that looks like it is all water is where Tiffany is now and must be Earth way in the future. Okay, so that was this issue's events from Tiffany's perspective. Let's rewind now and see the events for Mac. Mac and Quanta Bronstein continue talking and discussing the meaning of life. Eventually, Tiffany starts using the dream machine, and it causes ripples in all of the timelines. Quanta, she gets a bad headache, and then there's a literal earthquake, and it separates right in the middle between Quanta and Mac. And both Quanta and Mac see 11,706 BCE for a few moments. Quanta tells Mac to go use her time machine to get back home. Quanta, seeing 11,706 BCE in front of her eyes, she remembers Rory and Japo, who she met there and who she raised as her kids. And Quanta, she gets sad about it and she says, My girl, I saw the place where I found her and her precious boy. I'd forgotten how beautiful it was. Quanta, she starts falling ill, bleeding from her nose, and she eventually passes out. Mac, not much time now, goes over to the time capsule. It opens for her and she gets in. The machine asks for her destination. Mac tells the machine, back home, ass crack of the morning on November 1st, 1988. And the time capsule teleports her away in time. Then we see the page of the 4 distinct timelines. And the Earth then explodes, as Mac was just moments away from the end of the world, while the end of the world has come. Okay, so that was the issue's events from Mac's perspective. Let's rewind once again and see the events for KJ now. KJ is in 1958 with Jude. Jude is leading KJ to where their time capsule is, as well as Heck and Naldo. Jude asks KJ, "You said you met Heck and Naldo in 1988. What about me?" KJ hesitates to answer, but Jude argues, "Save me the old can't know your own future speech, KJ. If something awful is gonna happen to me, I deserve to hear about it." KJ breaks the news to him and says, "I'm so sorry, but I think you die." It is at that moment Tiffany used the dream machine in her timeline, and she caused a ripple through all of the timelines. KJ and Jude, they felt it too, but they don't react to it as much as the others. Jude is sad that he just learned from KJ that he is going to die in 1988. KJ tells Jude, "I wish there was something I could do, but..." Jude replies, "Yeah, you can mess with time all you want, but there's no cheating death, huh? Not like I was destined for a long life anyway." Jude reveals that he has the same time travel disease that Mac and Quanta Bronstein have. He has 4DC. Jude explains that most time travelers in his generation get the disease. Although there are a few lucky immune ones, the implants that he is wearing help redirect the mutations for a while, but nothing stopped the inevitable. So this helps explain why the teenagers look all mutated like, and also why they wear those weird electronic gizmos on their face. KJ asks, "If time travel is pretty much a death sentence, why do you guys do it?" Jude answers, "For all the kids who come after us. And if there's some old piece of tech in your time that might help them down the line, then I know what I have to do." Jude continues to lead KJ into the cave where he hid the time capsule. Jude asks KJ to not tell Heck and Naldo about his fate. He also asks KJ, "Do my boys at least get revenge on whatever asshole eventually did me in?" KJ answers, "The old timer who murders you, he gets shot." KJ is referring to Alistair here. They eventually get to the time machine. Jude, he is removing the tarp on it, and it is at that moment a portal opens up, and KJ sees Tiffany on the other side. Tiffany tells KJ, "No, it's a trap." Then the comic zooms out into space, and we see the page of the 4 distinct timelines, and we see the lights on across America in 1958, where KJ is in the 3rd panel. Okay, those were the issue's events from KJ's perspective. Let's rewind once again and see the events for Aaron now. Aaron has just entered the 4th dimension on Grandfather's ship, and her and grandfather are talking. Aaron asks him, "Why are we here?" Grandfather replies, "I was rather hoping you could tell us why we've ended up in this great beyond." Cardinal is on guard and thinks Aaron is a danger to them, but grandfather tells Cardinal this poor girl's not our enemy. She's just an innocent bystander, isn't that right? Aaron replies, "Please, I just want to see my friends again." Grandfather tells Aaron, "And I give you my word we'll do everything in our power to make that happen. For now, though, would you like to see our dinosaurs?" Aaron is a little confused but intrigued. Grandfather brings Aaron into the next room, where various dinosaurs are around, and he explains to her, "I gather you've been introduced to our teenaged opponents. They've likely told you that we're terribly dogmatic about altering the past. But I assure you that's not the case. Years ago, we learned you could rescue majestic creatures like these from moments before a comet strike, for example, and not alter the history of our planet one precious butterfly flap. But our descendants have shown a reckless disregard for..." At that moment, Tiffany uses the dream machine and sends ripples through the various timelines and the earthquakes and whatnot. And Aaron feels a tingling, and then an earthquake rips a hole in the side of grandfather's cathedral. All of a sudden, we see the various Editrixes that were flying around the fourth dimension make their way inside the ship. Grandfather is worried. He grabs Aaron's hands and pulls her with him to safety. Aaron asks, "I thought these monsters worked for you," referring to the Editrixes. Grandfather says, "A few of the females left to this realm to work alongside us, but I have no idea what these natives intend. Regardless, I think we should get you elsewhere." Grandfather tells Aaron his belief that time travel is possible because of the Editrixes. He explains to Aaron, "When our four-dimensional guests first revealed themselves to the world, when I was about your age, on the day we all discovered that time travel was possible. What we call the Editrixes helped us understand the awesome responsibilities that come with..." Aaron, she corrects grandfather and she angrily cuts in and says, "Bullshit. Time travel wasn't discovered, it was invented by the woman who raised you." She's referring to Quanta Bronstein here. Grandfather freezes and asks, "What the hell did you just say?" Aaron continues, "Whatever war you've been part of is stupid. I barely understand it, but I still seem to know way more than you." Grandfather does not believe Aaron's claims. Just then, an Editrix grabs Cardinal. Grandfather grabs his gun. He is going to shoot the Editrix to free Cardinal. Aaron warns him not to. Aaron says the Editrix is not trying to hurt her. Grandfather says that we don't know what it's doing, but I'm not losing anyone else. Grandfather, he shoots at the Editrix and hits it. And this causes the Editrix to reach out and grab Grandfather and Aaron and transport them somewhere else in time. Then once again, the comic zooms out and we see the page with the four distinct timelines from space. And we see Grandfather's ship exploding in the fourth dimension as Grandfather and Aaron were sent elsewhere. Issue 29. Mac is in the time-traveled capsule, headed towards 1988, when all of a sudden on her journey, the capsule tells her our arrival point has been altered by a second party. Mac, she gets redirected in time, no longer headed to 1988. She instead arrives in August 2nd, 1831. The capsule arrives at that time and parachutes down to the ground. Mac, she eventually gets out of the time capsule and is in an old version of Stony Stream. She looks around a bit. She asks the capsule, "How long will it take me to get to 1988 from here?" The capsule replies, "It will take, remaining batteries reserved for Dr. Bronstein's last will and testament, confirmed delivering to primary beneficiary, and the time capsule just teleports away in time. With Dr. Quanta Bronstein now dead, the capsule goes to her next of kin, which in this case would be Worry, whom Quanta raised as a daughter. Mac, she's annoyed that she has now been abandoned here by the time capsule in 1831, but she is soon met by old Tiffany, as well as young Tiffany and the two clone Aarons and clone KJ. They have traveled in time to here. Mac is excited to see her friend Tiffany is alive. Old Tiffany and the clones tell Mac that they will transport her and all the other paper girls back to 1988. But first, they have to adjust their memories. Mac asks, "So I'm still going to die, aren't I?" Tiffany asks the others, "It's not fair. If you've got this higher-than-high technology, why don't we go way back? Stop us from ever finding this stupid time machine in the first place. That way Mac can live." Clone KJ answers, "We tried that actually millions and millions of times." Clone 19-year-old Aaron continues saying, "In every attempt to retcon that stretch of the time stream, the best we could ever do was change the date Mac first met another one of you girls by a few weeks." Younger clone Aaron continues, "The current is now so strong at that point in the stream, it's all but impossible for you four not to be drawn together in that dank Ohio basement." Eventually, KJ, the real one, the original one, pops out of a portal from 1958 to join the others there in 1831. When Mac and KJ see each other, they run to each other and kiss. Then another portal opens, and this one is from the fourth dimension. And out from that one comes Grandfather and the original Aaron. So all the paper girls are now back together once again. Grandfather, he starts waving around his gun and he says, "Can't you leave anything well enough alone?" Grandfather, he's holding Aaron in his arms as a hostage. Old Tiffany and the clones, which are now the new teenagers battling the old timers, they talk with Grandfather and they say that they come in peace. Grandfather, talking to old Tiffany and the clones, replies, "Peace? You blew up our cathedral and killed every last soul aboard." Clone KJ tells Grandfather, "Actually, your actions caused the ship's destruction, but before your people could perish, we safely transported all of them back to where they belong." Grandfather asks, "Then why haven't you let us do the same for this girl? If she and her companions aren't deposited back in their era shortly, all of space and time will fracture like... While the conversation is going on, Tiffany is holding that Apple device. The one that has the brain machine interface? The one that she used for the dream machine? Well, she is holding it, and she is trying to subconsciously plant a memory in all of the paper girls. She is repeating the phrase, "We're not just paper girls, we're friends. We're not just paper girls, we're friends." If their minds are going to be wiped, she is hoping this mantra will stay with them, and maybe the four girls can continue being friends rather than drift apart like they did naturally after that hell morning they all met. Clone KJ tells Grandfather their terms. They want a truce. She wants Grandfather to agree to ban all time travel forever. Both of their sides will do this. She says, obviously we can't prevent whatever excursions have already taken place along the line, but together we can ensure that this power is never exploited again. Grandfather, he wants this war to end, but he doesn't trust these new teenagers here. Clone KJ opens a portal and brings in an Editrix, and the Editrix fires on Grandfather's shoulder, hurting him. Grandfather is upset. He used to be at unity with these Editrixes. Grandfather turns to the teenagers and says, How dare you? How dare you turn them against me?" Aaron says, "Hey, you shot one of their friends back on the ship there." Grandfather tells Aaron, "I was just trying to protect you. That's all we old-timers ever tried to do for you ungrateful shits." The Editrix then manages to touch Grandfather's arm, And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of memories flash before Grandfather's eyes. We see 9 images on this page. The images start near the current day for Grandfather, and then they go further back within his life. The first image is Worry. Grandfather recognizes her as his sister. Second image is Grandfather flying a pterodactyl. Third image is Grandfather fighting alongside Prioress in one of their many wars with the teenagers. Then we see Grandfather being chosen by the Editrixes for a supposed important position. Then we see when Grandfather first noticed an advertisement promoting the group Watch. And the advertisement worked on him, and it is what made him decide to join up. Then we see Grandfather as a child with Quanta Bronstein, whom he believed was his mother. And then he was also with young Worry, whom he believed to be his sister. But then Grandfather sees some images that he didn't remember before. He sees himself as a little boy in 11,706 BCE. Then, continuing in those prehistoric times, he sees Worry as his mother, and he sees the paper girls there fighting cavemen in the background. And lastly, he sees Worry once again, definitively as his mother. The Editrixes then let go of Grandfather, and Grandfather's world has been rocked. Everything is not what he thought, and he realizes how wrong he was on so many things, that Worry was actually his mother, not Quanta Bronstein, and Quanta Bronstein invented time travel, not these Editrixes. Grandfather says, "I'll be damned. I'm not the man I thought I was. I was wrong. Time isn't on anyone's side, is it?" Grandfather, he agrees to these new teenagers' terms. 19-year-old Clone Aaron asks, "That's it? No epic final battle?" Original Aaron asks, "Does that mean we get to go home?" Grandfather, he shakes Clone KJ's hand, and Clone KJ tells the paper girls, "You'll each be safely deposited back in your lives in the early hours shortly after you originally found the time machine. Events you will no longer recall." Very important to pay close attention to that sentence. The girls are going to be deposited back shortly after they originally found the time machine. Events they will no longer recall. The paper girls, they don't want their memories wiped, though. They tell this to the teenagers and to Grandfather, but Clone KJ and Grandfather tell the girls that this is for the best. Young KJ there took a life. While that may not weigh on her yet, it will. She'd come to dwell on not just the man she was forced to end, but on all of the descendants she likely helped erase from history. Believe me, endless branches of their possible faces will haunt her for the rest of... Mac, bored of this conversation, says, "Alright, I vote we get the hell on with the brainwashing already." The 4 paper girls, they then get zapped and brainwashed and sent back home to 1988. Issue 30, the final issue. Alright, this is my interpretation of what happened timeline-wise heading into this final issue. So the paper girls, they were all returned back to 1988 on November 1st, but everything that happened to them still happened. All of that hell morning day after Halloween stuff we saw go down in issue 1 still happened. And all of the town saw all the weird stuff going on, but they all had their memories wiped along with all of the paper girls, and the timeline was somewhat restored. And the paper girls, they were returned to town. And now, the town will wake up after that hell morning, having forgotten all of the events that happened. So everybody's going to start doing all of the stuff they had planned to do the previous night, not realizing they already did it. And all of the paper girls' memories of their adventure together has been wiped. Their friendship and all their journey together are gone. Mac, KJ, and Tiffany did meet each other once before, last hell morning when they delivered papers together, but they really don't know each other that well. The events from here on out closely mirror the events of issue 1, because everybody is doing the same things they were going to do in that issue. However, all of the Paper Girls now have these dreams and subconscious memories embedded into them by Tiffany doing some of her weird stuff she was doing with that dream machine the last few issues. So, the Paper Girls will have those dreams subconsciously pulling them into subtly different decisions. First, we jump to Mac. Currently, she is sleeping and will wake up soon. But before she does, we see all the weird ways her dream is messing with her and trying to give her a message. In Mac's dream, she is at KJ's bat mitzvah. This is a little strange to Mac because at this point she doesn't really know KJ that well. KJ is wearing a very pretty dress and tells Mac, "If you laugh at me, I'm gonna punch you in the boob." Mac, nervous, tells KJ, "KJ, you look... I didn't know this was gonna be so dressy." Aaron then arrives, and Mac refers to Aaron as New Kid, although with her mind wiped, she shouldn't even know Aaron at all. Aaron in the dream says, "Mac, you've known me for almost a year. How come you don't just call me by my real name?" Mac in the dream replies, "Because I have no idea what it is." KJ in the dream says, "Neither do I, actually. When did we meet again?" Aaron tries to give them a message. She says, "You guys, listen to me. It's super, super important that you don't forget what I'm about to..." Aaron in the dream doesn't get time to finish her sentence. Tiffany as Terminator walks into the dream. Tiffany says, "Hey," and then she pulls out a gun and then blasts Aaron with it. Only the bullets are rainbows for some reason. KJ in the dream yells, "Aaron!" Mac says, "Yeah, that was her name." Tiffany then tells Mac, "I have a message. We're not just Paper Girls. The message does not get received, though." In the dream, KJ tells Mac, "Please, you have to dance with me." Mac, confused, asks, "Like slow dance?" And as they dance, KJ tells Mac, "Mac, you love me." And Mac replies, "I do?" Mac, she then awakens from her weird dream. Her brother has woken her up and tells her she is late for delivering papers. Mac, she steals her brother's Walkman and begins her paper route. Now we jump over to KJ. KJ wakes up for her paper route from her dream. She remembers a little bit about it, and she says to her mom, "My dream, it was like in the future, and my friends and I were all at this amazing party, and it's gone. I don't remember now." Now we jump over to Tiffany and see her waking up in her dreams. Tiffany, while she is sleeping, she murmurs, "We're not just Paper Girls, we're friends." But then she wakes up, so it doesn't seem like the dream messages fully got through to her either. Tiffany, as she wakes up, she turns off the Arachnoid Nintendo game she was playing, and she gets ready to deliver her papers. Jumping over to Aaron's house now, Aaron, she wakes up, and she still has that scar on her belly, the one that she got from being shot by Mac's mom that was healed by those healing insects. Aaron's sister Missy sees it and points it out and accuses Aaron of getting a tattoo. Aaron says it's just a rash. All 4 Paper Girls begin delivering for their routes. Eventually, Mac and Tiffany cross paths. Tiffany says to Mac, "I don't know if you remember, but we delivered together last year. The psychos are still out in full effect. You want to team up again?" Mac replies, "Maybe. Have you, seen KJ tonight?" Tiffany replies, "Not yet, but I ran into some new delivery girl. Her name is Erin." Tiffany explains that she gave Aaron a walkie-talkie and told Aaron to call her on it if anything comes up. Aaron, at that moment, radios in to Tiffany. Aaron says that some older boys in Halloween costumes are picking on another paper delivery girl. We see KJ is the one being picked on. She is cornered by the older teenage boy named Lucas Kurzenberger, whom was causing trouble back in issue 1. KJ is telling them to get away from her, but Lucas and his friends are still giving KJ a hard time. Mac, she pulls up on her bike with Tiffany and Aaron as backup. Mac in issue 1 called Lucas a derogatory gay slang term as an insult, as a way to shut him up. However, this time, instead of saying that homophobic remark again, something in Mac's brain makes her use a different word. Mac tells Lucas, "Cool costume, you fart mouth." Lucas asks, "What did you just call me?" Lucas' friends tell him that his breath does indeed stink. Lucas yells back, "Why don't you just mind your business, Coyle?" Mac replies, "That's exactly what I'm doing, unlike your unemployed ass. My brother told me you got fired from Friendly's for dipping your hairy balls in the Fribble machine." Lucas replies, "Ha ha, good luck getting home alive, bitch." And then Lucas and his friends leave. Now this scene closely mirrors the one in issue 1, but it went down slightly different. All the Paper Girls make their introductions to one another. Mac then suggests that they split into 2 groups to continue their routes. Now this is what happened in issue 1, they split up. Erin, though, the dreams must have gotten through to her, as she seems to have remembered that "we're not just Paper Girls, we're friends" thing. And Erin answers Mac, "Or, because of the evil high schoolers and stuff, maybe all 4 of us could maybe stick together? Just an idea." The girls decide, why not stay together? The girls, they continue biking and doing their routes. They're talking, they're bonding, and they're sharing memories of past Halloweens. Eventually, a station wagon is right on them, driving behind them, trailing real close, too close. Mac yells for the station wagon to go around them. Eventually, the station wagon does drive in front of them, but it slams on the brakes, and all of the girls have to slam on the brakes on their bikes and stop suddenly. Just then, though, some drunk teenagers drive through the intersection on a Jeep. If that station wagon didn't cut the girls off, then maybe the girls would have been hit by those drunk teenagers. The Paper Girls recognize that this station wagon seemed to have saved their lives. The station wagon then drives off, though, before they can talk to the driver. Tiffany yells, "Wait! Who are you?" Who was driving that station wagon? It was Worry. Dr. Quanta Bronstein's time machine teleported to Worry, and Worry must have used it to make sure the girls were okay this night. The Paper Girls all talk about what just happened. Tiffany says, "What if it wasn't an accident? What if it was like our guardian angel or something?" Erin, she needs to relax. She asks Mac if she can have a cigarette. And then all 4 girls go to the playground and smoke some cigarettes. Something about 4 12-year-old girls smoking cigarettes seems wrong to me, but also it is kind of funny how wrong it is. Is Brian K. Vaughan trying to make impressionable youth smoke? So all the girls are smoking, and Erin says, and I'm not joking, she says, with all the warnings and stuff, I didn't think it was gonna taste so great." Tiffany adds, "Good old forbidden fruit." KJ, she coughs and asks Mac, "Aren't you worried about dying?" Mac replies, "Not as worried as I am about living a life that is awesome." Tiffany, she tells the girls that she's thinking of quitting being a paper girl. Yeah, it's been nice making money and buying cool stuff with it, but it's all just stuff. And most of whatever I think I like is just some slightly different version of crap that made me feel happy when I was a kid. I mean, maybe I need to grow up a little. Mac asks, "Yeah, but what are you ever gonna do that will be better than this?" Tiffany replies, "I don't want to do anything. I just want to be, at least for a little while." As the Paper Girls finish their routes, they all say their goodbyes. They say, "Oh, maybe we should do this again next year, and if Tiffany quits, well, maybe we'll see you around, Tiffany." They all head out in their separate ways, going down different roads. Max says, "Catch you freaks later." The other girls reply, "Later, see ya." Erin waves and says goodbye. and it seemed like they would never see each other again. And the comic zooms all the way out into space, and we see some visuals that seem reminiscent of issue 28 when we followed all the girls' different timeline journeys. Except, no, something makes Aaron shout out, "You guys, hold up!" The other paper girls on their bikes circle back, and Aaron says, "Hey, I'm not sure about you, but I don't have to start getting ready for school for like another hour. Want to ride together a little longer?" And the girls reply, "Sure, why not? Yeah, I'm in." And Aaron answers, "Cool." The four girls, they then bike down the road, and Mac sees a yellow bug car and punches KJ in the shoulder. KJ asks, "Ow, what was that for?" And Mac replies, "Yellow punch buggy, no punchbacks." And the four girls, they bike off into the sunrise, and we assume they will remain friends in the preceding years. And this is the end of Paper Girls. Alright, so that was the conclusion of Paper Girls. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm very curious to see how you all received this ending. But let me go through some of my thoughts first. So, one thing I thought was really compelling in this book is the whole battle between the old timers and the teenagers. Really, we kind of learned there was no bad guys or good guys there. It was just these two groups trying to do what they thought was right. So I thought that was very compelling in the end. I thought it was cool, some of the experimental storytelling done in this final volume, how we had the four panels and the girls' story and the different timelines overlapping with one another. The four distinct timeline stories, each of them, I thought had a compelling part to them. So Tiffany and the clones, I thought it was cool seeing way in the future and seeing all these clones of the main Paper Girl characters, an older KJ, more Aaron's, and then seeing old Tiffany come back, I thought was really fun. Now, I do think the whole Dream Machine stuff was a little bit overly complicated, and I'm not fully into that concept, so I didn't love that part of it. But still, I thought there was some cool things there. Mac and Quanta Bronstein going to the end of the world and them having this conversation and learning some of Quanta Bronstein's thoughts on life and time travel was great to see some of that interaction between the two of them. We also had KJ and Jude in the 50s. I thought some of that was pretty good. You know, those are characters we don't normally think of seeing interact, and it's interesting seeing some of their thoughts and Jude's relationship to the other teenagers and Jude learning about his oncoming death in 1988. So that was good stuff. Then we had Aaron talking with Grandfather, which is probably the highlight because we really learn more into Grandfather's beliefs and what his organization is doing. And seeing him interact with Aaron was really compelling on that ship. Then all the girls got sucked out of their timelines and brought back to the 1800s for this final confrontation between the old timers and the teenagers or the clones and whatnot. And I thought it was compelling seeing them talk it out. And there was no big epic final fight. It is more so this conversation and coming to terms. And I thought that was kind of cool and unique. So I liked the resolution there. Now we had the four girls sent back to their time in 1988. And I really did like the final issue, seeing the girls relive the events of issue 1, but slightly altered. So there's various Easter eggs and references to issue 1, but done in a slightly different way. So that was really fun to see go down. And then ending with the four Paper Girls now being friends going forward was a pretty nice ending. So I did like that. Now, one thing I gotta say is that overall, I'm still a little confused on the overall timeline stuff going on. It's a little hard to wrap your head around absolutely everything. I think for the most part it makes sense, but it was maybe a little bit too convoluted for my liking. One other thing I want to mention is that it is a bummer that Mac is still going to die. I would have liked a way for the story to find a way to make her live, but oh well. Overall, I did like this series. I thought the ending was really fun, and I'm going to give this final volume an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and next week I will be back with a new series.